Hi, welcome back to my channel, Myosotis Sews. I'm Hannah. Today starts part 4 of sewing this Myosotis dress from Deer and Doe Patterns. Make sure to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any of the sew along. Today we're going to start sewing the skirt, which includes inseam pockets with a French seam. Then we'll attach our skirt to our bodice. Let's get started. Now we're going to do our skirt, and I'm going to show you step by step how I insert the pockets with a French seam. So you're going to need your pocket pieces. You should have 4 of these cut out. And then you're going to need your front of your skirt and the back of your skirt. Now we're going to sew these. We're going to start by pinning these wrong sides together like you usually do with the French seam. You make sure you have your pocket placement marks in place. And we're going to pin our pockets in between these two dots on either side of the skirt. We're going to do it on the front and the back. And we'll do this all at the same time and stitch it all up at our sewing machine all at the same time. So I'm going to I'll move this out of the way. We'll take this side so that hopefully you can see they're very small, but here's my placement. And they're going to be wrong sides together. And we're just going to simply line this up and pin it into place, and we'll do that for all 4 pockets. So we're going to sew at 3/8 of an inch from the top of the pocket to the bottom, and we'll be back stitching at the beginning and the end. After you have all your pocket pieces sewn on, we have to trim this section between the pocket and the rest of the seam. So I'll lay it flat like this. And I'm just going to barely clip in there at the top and the bottom. And then we'll trim just this seam down to about 1/4 of an inch, or 1/8 of an inch actually. We're going to do this for all 4 of our pocket pieces. And then what we need to do is we need to press it so that's coming away from that stitching line. That way we get a nice crease when we go to sew the second seam. So give it a nice light press. And then you'll just fold it back on itself. So now it's right sides together like you would sew a regular seam. And then we'll pin this into place, and then you'll stitch it up again at the sewing machine, and you'll do all 4 pockets. So just give this a pin, and then we'll take it to the sewing machine and we'll stitch up all of our pockets. Now we're going to take each pocket and we're going to stitch at a 1/4 inch seam allowance. And you can see here it's somewhat different than the rest of the seam allowance. Don't worry about that. Just start at the beginning here, back stitch, and back stitch at the end as well, but sewing at a 1/4 inch. And do this with all 4 pockets. We need to give our pockets a really good press. I've already done all my pockets except this one, so I'm going to press it this way first. And then I'm going to flip it, and we're going to give it a nice press so we have nice clean lines to work with. Now that we have that done, we're going to pin our skirt together, wrong sides together. So lay one down, and then lay the other one right on top. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna pin along the side here, pin the pockets together, and then down this side. So you want it to look like that. I'll do it to the other side and we'll take it to the sewing machine and stitch it, and you can clip any threads that might have frayed as well. Remember to sew at a 3/8 inch seam allowance. Pivot at the pocket, keeping it at 3/8 inch. So here I have my side seams stitched with their first stitch. I want to show you. The first stitch is not going to line up with that finished French seam on the pocket that we did earlier, but we're going to trim our excess down, and then we're going to flip it around, give it a press, and pin it back into place. Now, the first thing you want to do is you want to clip into this corner where you have your stitches. You want to clip to the stitches, but not through them. Just like that. And that's going to help us to turn this so that way we can get a nice crisp edge. I'm going to do this on all my corners, and then I'll trim it and we'll give it a press. Seam allowance. Now it's very important that when you're sewing your seam allowance, you match up with this seam here, the other French seam that you did when we were attaching our pockets. We want to match it up at the beginning and at the end here. That way you don't have any weird puckering on the outside, or it looks like your pocket isn't completely finished. Should have all our side seams done here. I have my pockets into my top piece. I have my side seams done on my ruffle piece. And now we are going to gather this top edge to fit into this piece. And at this point, you should know how to do that because you already did it with your sleeves. So go ahead and start gathering your stitches to get it to fit into your upper skirt piece. Gather it to fit in like this. So I'm going to continue gathering this all the way around, and then I'll take it to my sewing machine and I will stitch it into place. Okay, so I have my two skirt pieces here and I have them all pinned into place. Make sure your gathers are pretty even, so you had to even them out and pin them all into place. And now we're going to stitch all the way around on our skirt to secure this into place. Make sure to back stitch at the beginning and the end. So I have my bodice here, I have my skirt done, and my ruffle attached here. I give it a nice little press, and then I started gathering the top edge of my skirt so I can ease it into my bodice. And you're going to do that on the front and the back, still have to do on the back. So I'm just going to start pinning it into place, getting all my threads out of the way, and moving it around as I get it fitted in here. But go ahead and do this on yours, and then you're going to take it to the sewing machine and you're going to stitch it into place. like this. I'm going to do the back, and I'm going to take it to the sewing machine and stitch it all into place. I have my whole bodice attached to my skirt, and now I'm just going to sew around and have that attached. So I have my bodice attached to my skirt, and now all we have to do is hem the bottom of our dress. Now I went ahead and started hemming this already, and I'm going to show you what I've done. I showed you this on the sleeve, but in case you need a refresher, if you just stitch at 3/8 of an inch, then you can fold on that stitch line, and then you're simply going to fold over again like so, pin it into place, and I like to give it a nice little press. To get that into place, and then I'm going to take this to my sewing machine and I'm going to top stitch this in place, and then we will be completely done our dress. Flip any little thread you have hanging out, and then I'm going to take this to the sewing machine and top stitch it. I'm going to top stitch all the way around my hem. I'm going to set my stitch length at about a 3.5, and we're just going to sew all the way around. Now that your hem is complete, you can give it a nice press and your dress will be finished. We have our sleeves in place, we have our bodice sewn up, we have our skirt in place, and everything is nice and hemmed. We're all done our dress. I'm so glad you joined me for this sew along. Make sure you like and subscribe to my channel so you don't miss any sewing content in the future. See you next time.